First of all, we got to go home real quick. Congratulations to Udonis Haslem for getting his number 40 retired in Miami. And so what that's done is that's made me kind of reflect on Udonis's career. And I realized something about Udonis Haslem. Udonis Haslem is one of those players who really separates who really knows basketball and who doesn't. And it's been pretty interesting. It's been pretty interesting to watch, man. Like, I feel like in the culture of just kind of getting NBA jokes off, I feel like a lot of people just genuinely don't know who Udonis Haslem was as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of just comes from, look, if you're like making the point that Udonis Haslem only averaged such and such amount of points, you've missed every point about who Udonis Haslem was. I think defense has to be paid a little more attention to. And I feel like as much as, let's say, for example, the 06 finals, as much as Dwayne Wade was incredible and he deserves all the credit he gets, if Udonis Haslem allows that to be a shootout between Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki, the Heat still lose that series. And so that's who Udonis Haslem was. Udonis Haslem was the ultimate, I don't even want to say utility guy, because he was more than that. He'd also score when you needed him to. But he for sure took on the defensive challenges. He for sure was switching as a four before people were. He was an undersized four in a time where you're playing against like real bruisers out there. And Udonis Haslem is 6'8", skinny, and taking on a challenge every night and winning that challenge. The Heat lose a lot of games without Udonis Haslem. And like LeBron and Bosh didn't take less money just because Udonis Haslem was Dwayne Wade's friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Udonis Haslem was a real contributor out there. And another thing that's been pretty funny to me is he's been really pissing people off with the stuff he says on his podcast. But it's an interesting thing to me because different places have different cultures, right?
Right.
And not only am I familiar with where Udonis Haslem is from, I'm from the same neighborhood as Udonis Haslem. And so from my perspective, it's not it's really all of inner city Miami, but I can only speak of the neighborhood I grew up in. What you're not gonna do is dance around what you have to say. Right. That's not respected by anybody. So you're either gonna say exactly what's on your mind, or you're just not gonna say anything. And so just seeing people kind of flip out at a 40-something-year-old man from Liberty City for like not pulling punches, I just feel like that's a gigantic waste of time. Like it's just not.
You said it in a lot nicer way than I would have. Shit, he doesn't give a fuck when nobody says like no hair on the tongue. Like,
but you know what?
Miami.
I noticed that when I moved to Dallas too, and that's no disrespect to Dallas. I love it up here, but sometimes I'll just be having what I think is a regular conversation. People be taken aback about how straightforward I was. And it's just like, all right, well, maybe this is just an actual thing. But I want to really just get y'all thoughts on Udonis Haslem. I feel like he's become a purposefully misunderstood player.
No, absolutely. You mentioned his playoff success. He has 3 championships. He was a role player on all of them. Averaged 30 minutes a game the first ring, second ring 20 minutes a game in the playoffs, 16 in the last one. He played on those championship teams. Mm-hmm. He earned those rings. When you talk about the 06, the main defender on Dirk, gave him a lot of fits, gave him a lot of trouble, gave him hard fouls, gave him a lot of versatility. He wasn't the only guy, but he was the primary guy in the starting lineup. He got a lot of minutes on James Posey got a lot of minutes on him. Antoine Walker got some run on him. Even Zoe got a couple of looks at him too, and they threw GP Gary Payton at him too. But Udonis was the guy from tip off, ready to go in Dirk's face, make it difficult, set the tone, be physical, and there's a very good argument that he was the second or third best player on that championship team. It wasn't Shaq in the finals.
That's what people forget. Shaq was, and all due respect to Shaq, he was so bad that series.
Yeah. He got. They were still. I mean, it was still Avery Johnson's fault for double teaming him for some reason. I'll never understand that. But yeah, Shaq averaged like 11 points in the finals. Antoine Walker averaged more points than him.
Yeah.
Udonis outplayed him too. And he just physicality, just brought that energy, brought that intensity, the ultimate respect from all his teammates. He was one of the only guys that you would never question really his shot selection. He would move the ball, move without the ball, set screens, crash the boards, be undersized like you were, play the 5, come off the bench. When he drafted Michael Beasley, he's like, hey, we're going to go as far as the young guys take us. Mm-hmm. I'll come off the bench. I'll take a step back and do that. And he's always been about winning. I know the last, he really essentially retired in 2014, 2015. After that, he was more of a just bench guy, locker room guy. But for his playing career, I'm sorry. If you just started watching basketball in 2018, yeah, Udonis Haslem is only a locker room guy. But no, the guy had a legitimate NBA career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even as just a locker room guy, a lot of players came to his defense, veteran players, talking about how, as a veteran in a locker room, how much that is needed across the league, in a league that's trending towards so many young players. Bams talked about it like he wouldn't be nobody without, as he's referred to down here in Miami, OG. Yeah. And one of the most unselfish human beings, wherever he's been, took so many pay cuts. Dallas knew how good he was. They tried to poach him from Miami the year, in 2010, offering him, I believe it was 4 years for $30 million. Miami gave him 4 for 20. So he left $10 million on the table. That was just one of the times. Staying loyal, literally, to his people, to who he is as a person. To Kenny's point, the way he said it so eloquently, but he just does not care what people say or think about him. And I respect that. That's literally the culture that, grew up in Miami. So it is what it is. And he was automatic from 15.
No question.
Especially on the baseline. Oh my goodness.
That left short corner.
Yeah. Then he started in an era where spacing wasn't really viewed as, to the 3-point line. He was spacing for that era out to that midi, 15, 17, 18 feet. That was considered spacing. One of the best heady defenders, heart, hustle, every game, drawing charges, led the league several times. I know he's the all-time Heat leader in charges as well. Like, just the ultimate competitor, earned his respect from his peers. It was earned, not given. There's a reason why players tout him for not just for the player, for the person, for the teammate, for everything he has been to the organization. And even Dwayne said it. He wouldn't be who he is without UD either. So he was the guy that he would make sure Wade came out undusted because he knew they needed him. So he would take all the brawls for D Wade. He'd take all the hits. He'd take all the punches. As Kenny was saying, nowadays he's built like a 4 nowadays. Like the 6'8", he was for like 215, 220. He started getting a little bigger towards the end of his career. He was still undersized. So it was just a lot of heart, hustle, passion, shit that people don't really have these days. Came out undrafted, obviously out of Florida, and just was basically, as far as I believe the story goes, it's just that he didn't want to work out for anybody. It was like Miami or overseas, and he was about to go overseas. Miami called him in for a training camp, came in same year as D Wade did, and shit, basically, had the career he had. He's having his retirement on January 19th, so he's gonna get his just due. Rightfully deserved. One of the all-time pro players.
And to the point of the later stage of his career and the role he played, I feel like even that kind of that gets very misunderstood also. Another thing is, like, if you're saying Udonis Haslem if you're reducing him to like quote unquote bench warmer, you also don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Absolutely.
Because what happens is, first of all, a team paying a player every year about 6 years after he stops playing, whether you agree or not with whether that should be the case, the organization obviously finds a clear use for that. It's not, Pat Riley isn't doing anybody any favors just because he wants to do him a favor.
Right.
They're obviously important. And to speak on the importance of that role Udonis Haslem had in that process, we're watching every year the Heat bring in undrafted players and make these deep playoff runs. Udonis Haslem was not the first one, but he was the first one who came into the Heat undrafted, earned his spot, and went all the way to a championship. And like we mentioned a few minutes ago, really contributed to those championships.
Yep.
And so having him in that locker room and in those practices, like with a practice jersey on, not trying to coach, and from that perspective was a little different, with a practice jersey on, telling a Max Strus, a Gabe Vincent, or the list goes on and on about Caleb Martin. The list just goes on and on about undrafted Heat players who came in and made real contributions. And Udonis Haslem was that hands-on, day-to-day example. And so that's what Udonis Haslem meant after his playing career. But I also feel like a lot of people were just too young to remember how good of a player he was.
No, and Lou was talking about the respect around the league. We didn't even talk about the bubble when they were thinking about canceling it. It was, and they had the player meeting with all the players the teams that were in the bubble. It was Udonis and LeBron were the two voices that everybody was listening to.
Yeah.
And Udonis was the one who was like, "Yo, are we bullshitting? Are we gonna play? if we're not gonna play, let's go home. All right, let's stop fucking around. Let's be about it. Like, what are we doing? What's the real message?" And everybody was listening to him. And this was in 2020. This was about 4 years after he had legitimately stopped playing consecutive games or like in a significant role on the team. And people still respected him because his peers respected him. You talk about multiple times you've heard his name called out from other teams that were like, "Hey man, I just feel like we need a Udonis Haslem type. We need a vet. We need a real OG in the locker room to really get the respect of all the young fellas in here." There's a lot of teams that do way too much in one direction and don't respect what the Udonis Haslems, what the Garrett Temples, got vets like that who've been around the league, have a ton of respect, and work hard and can set an example for your organization.
So here's what I can say about that Udonis Haslem role, and this will really make it all make sense. So Andre Iguodala comes from he went from Golden State to Memphis. That didn't work. And then he comes to Miami. He played significant minutes, you know what I mean? And great defensive minutes, not great offensive minutes, but he played significant minutes in Miami. And then he goes back to Golden State after being with Udonis Haslem for a couple years. And what role is he playing in Golden State that time?
Do
not playing minutes, but in the locker room as that presence, giving that advice to young players. And so, look, you can say what you want at the end of the day about Udonis Haslem or but I pretty much guarantee that if it's negative, and it's not even us being biased, like if you have negative opinions about Udonis Haslem, they're probably incorrect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12 of Playoff Foul. This thing's moving pretty nicely. I ain't gonna lie. Since we started the short form content, so make sure you follow the YouTube, TikTok, the Instagram, and pretty much everywhere. It's at Playoff Foul everywhere. I don't know how I ended up getting that name. I figured it would be taken somewhere, but it's not. So go ahead, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'm Kenny. I got Lou with me. I got Frankie with me. How y'all doing tonight?
Man, it's a great night to talk basketball. I feel like the NBA world is on its shit. The trade deadline is here. Like I guess it's only here for Toronto, but that shit is here. So maybe some teams get inspired.
Frankie, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. And you mentioned the name Playoff Foul. Udonis was the king of the playoff foul. Shout out to Tyler Hansbrough. Let's talk these trades, man, because I that's what a lot of fans love the transaction talk. I'm one of them. I love the on the court stuff, but the transaction talk gets me going to the hypotheticals. Let's get into it.
So let's just go ahead right away. So Pascal Siakam is an Indiana Pacer. Now, I feel like at first, because there was rumors for him really going there since like the summer. right? And I never really thought about his fit there until today. And that's a hand in glove fit.
Yep.
When you talk about a team that struggles defensively, and we mentioned before, kind of one-track minded offensively, just get up and go and just outrun your opponent and just hope they don't score as much as you. Pascal gives them, he's also athletic enough to do that, but he gives them the option now to play in the half court and be a little more methodical. But I'm going to go to y'all first on that.
Yeah, I think, like you stated, like he's a very all-around player, and I think that the key contribution here is at a position of need. Mm-hmm. At a position where they needed some size, they needed somebody who can do some of the things that Siakam is good at, like you said, hand and glove fit. He can do some things in the half court too, but he is also one of the best transition players still. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's really it's a match made in heaven. I'm curious to see what the money's gonna look like, because he deserves to, and he will get paid. So shout out to the Pacers for doing that. It was it's gonna be interesting, just the amount of playmaking, because I mean, when you think about who they gave up, this is the way I like to think about trades is who did they give up and where is he going to fit now? Bruce Brown, they brought Bruce Brown to do some of the defensive things, some like the all around things. Siakam does those things plus the offensive things at like 5 extra inches of height.
Yeah.
So like it was already working with Bruce, and he's a hell of a player. We'll see where he ends up, but just in general, like it gives him size next to Miles Turner. It gives him somebody who can play small ball 5 if needed, or play next to Jalen Smith in the backup minutes. It gives Jarris Walker somebody to look up to, because obviously they took him very high in the draft, and one of my favorite players in that draft class. So I'm very high on Jarris. It just gives him a direction, gives him an identity in an era in a league where identities are crucial. It felt like the Indiana Pacers have officially found their identity and their core moving forward. So for me, it's a 10 out of 10 trade for the Pacers.
Are you?
I completely agree. I kept thinking about the last one of the last podcasts you guys had with Iman talking about the other Raptors trade, and how Iman was talking about how they need to get on Scotty's timeline because Scotty's ready to go. And that made me think about Tyrese in this instance. Tyrese is ready to go. Tyrese is at an all NBA level right now. Arguable, like he's not gonna be in the top 3 for MVP, but he's gonna be up there for MVP. He's gonna get his votes. He's gonna be a perennial all-star from here on out, barring injuries. Phenomenal player. He needs guys ready to go right now. I love Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is an elite role player. We just talked about Udonis Haslem. Bruce Brown is another one of those elite role player guys. Guys who accepts their role, understands it, plays hard, plays as many games as he can, plays both ways, and will do anything for his team. Start, come off the bench, cheer for his team, whatever they need. But Pascal Siakam is an all NBA player. I feel like people don't know that enough, that he is an all NBA player, a 2-time all NBA player. Yep. He is an elite scorer. Like Lou mentioned, his transition game. He's going to run the floor, be able to seal into the baskets, get hit heads, run the attack under the basket, get to the rim. He's shooting like 73% at the rim, something like that. And Tyrese has got to have an outlet here. He's got another pick and roll partner. You can do the double drag with him and Miles Turner. Both of those guys are threats from deep. You can switch both of them. One of them can run in transition while the other guy trails. So it's going to open up pick and pop opportunities or trail threes for Miles Turner as well. And like Lou mentioned, the defensive versatility. You got a guy 6'9", 235 listed, but plays long, plays big, will defend, will rebound, can guard small, can guard up, and he's going to be physical. And he's brings some of that versatility defensively that they desperately needed. And I like it. I like it. Indiana is not a destination spot. They have a ton of picks that they can play around with. And it's time to get on Tyrese's timeline. I was curious because they were trying to get OG too. That obviously didn't get done. But I still think that there might be another move in the wings. I don't know who for, but I don't think they're done within these next 2 years.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much money they have left, but I do know Bruce Brown was making about $22 million, and I don't know how much Pascal's making, but they're obviously going to pay him in the summer. He's already said he's excited for that, so he's going to stick around in Indiana. But I do think they still have some money and some flexibility for some more stuff, and I don't think there's a basketball player in the world who would be like, nah, you know what? I don't want to play with Tyrese Halliburton. So the Indiana Pacers are, depending on how serious their front office is willing to get, that could end up being a real threat of a team. I feel like even now with the Siakam move, they're a little bit more of a threat.
Yeah, I feel like it pushes them into that ahead of the play-in territory for sure. Like, I feel like their floor is now above play-in. Their ceiling is TBD. It's to be determined. One of the things that I feel like is going unnoticed, I don't want to say unnoticed, I just feel like underappreciated in this trade in general, is they kind of had like a little bit of a logjam at that 2 spot.
Yeah.
For one of the guys that I love to watch play basketball, Benedict Mathurin. So now with some space there, obviously Buddy was thrown around in the trades. He didn't end up getting traded. He might be the next move. Who knows? But yeah, he's an expiring. So, but if that is the case, then you're really going to get a young movement next to Tyrese, but you're also going to get, some veterans alongside him in the form of obviously Pascal and Miles Turner. Like, you're looking at a team that has a solid balance of now, future, and like, it's just, that's kind of what you need in today's NBA, but they all fit alongside each other. They all have the same identity. This is the heaviest driving team in basketball. And like Pascal Siakam is going to do that to a T. Like, that's his style of game. So I think, like you said, hand and glove fit. Can't wait to see them play. I believe that their first game is on Friday. I hope he plays, but man, I'm excited.
And Lou, you mentioned they were able to keep Jarris Walker, but they also were able to keep Andrew Nembhard, who's a guy they really like. But that, Jarris Walker's been playing a lot in the G League. He obviously isn't ready. I think he's one of those guys who needs more run, and I'm glad he's getting it in the G League. But they might use him as some bait to try to snag something better. Use Buddy Hield's contract and float it for like a 3-team deal. Get Hield to a contender, Jarris Walker to a rebuilding team that's ready to trade off a superstar or an all-star player. They could use some wing help here. Buddy Hield, we mentioned Buddy Hield's expiring contract. I'd be interested. Like, I don't think Zach LaVine's the right kind of guy, but in that kind of all-star, like, rebuilding team, next level kind of guy.
And so the other side of the trade now, for me personally, when I see a trade happen, and I've mentioned this on the other Raptors trade, I don't like looking at who won or lost the trade or whatever it is, because there's always a benefit to both teams in some way.
For sure.
So on the Raptors side of it, and we saw tonight as Heat fans watching our team get destroyed. Despite how good of a player Pascal Siakam is, and we just talked about how good he is, the Raptors now having that clarity of the direction they're going in and just having that relief is also going to help them. And they also got draft picks out of it. And so usually when a team gets draft picks and the main focus because they're going to move on from Bruce Brown also. So anytime a team's main focus in a deal is getting draft picks, they're going young. And in the Raptors case, they're going Scotty Barnes. That's it. He's the man now, 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I like that for them, honestly.
Yeah. They had a little bit of a logjam at that 3-4 spot, specifically after the Barrett trade, after them trading for Barrett and stuff. So just them getting, like you said, some clarity on their situation going forward. Not to say that Siakam and Scotty Barnes could have never worked together. It's just saying that, like, this is Scotty's team. This is the vision we have. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. They ended up getting Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, who, we don't know how much he's going to play, or Kyra Lewis. But, speed. That's the first thing I look at. They're getting speed. They played fast today. They're trying to, pick up their tempo. And they get 3 first-round picks out of it. 2 this year. 1 is from the Pacers. 1 is the lesser of the Jazz, Clippers, Rockets, or the Thunder's pick. And then the next one is a 2026 top 4 protected pick from the Pacers. So it's like, they got a good, like you said, winners and losers is not something we talk about, we talk about how it benefits both teams. And I feel like obviously we talked about the Pacers, but the Raptors specifically gives them some leeway, gives them some true space to see what RJ Barrett is in a team that gives him that freedom, because he's been looking really, really, really good.
He's been hooping.
Yeah, so has Quickly, so has Scotty Barnes. Like Scotty Barnes actually taking a step back in scoring, but he's doing a little bit more of everything. So it's just curious, it feels like the coach is finally getting the team that he wants.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's even more important than the talent on the team, is just players that fit the scheme. So it's super excited for what Toronto's going to do in the future, because they look like they're heading the right way. They're heading back to their ways. And talk about a team who's been elite at drafting.
Oh yeah.
Developing. Like, it doesn't get much better than the Raptors. Like, seriously, drafting, developing Scotty,
Pascal Siakam, for example.
Siakam, Anunoby, like the pieces that they just moved on and traded. Yeah, Fred VanVleet. The pieces that they're moving on from, like come on, like these are the guys that they drafted, and it's, you're giving them 3 more chances at that in the first round. So I like the trade for him. The Pelicans, though, obviously they just got cash considerations. So talk about not getting anything in a trade aside from money. We don't want to talk about losers, but it felt like they just gave up on Kira Lewis, a guy that they took very early in the draft. God knows why. I don't know why, but it is what it is. They were just, I don't know. They just kind of wanted to be in the deal. They were like,
it helped them get below the apron.
Yeah, that's probably what they wanted.
It helped them get some flexibility. That's what it was. I agree. They should have got something in the future. Give me a second,
protected second. Yeah,
protected second in the future or something. Just cash
or swap the rights for some swaps or something. Second
right, something. But yeah, for the Raptors, I just think it clearly shows they're not done. You got Bruce Brown, who's got 1 more year at a team option. You got Gary Trent Jr., who's an expiring contract, who's older. Like, it's not, it's not to say he's bad, but he's probably not a part of the. Oh no, he's 24, so they could bring Gary Trent back. I don't know why I felt Gary Trent was.
It just feels like he's been in the league forever.
Because he was hooping in the during the bubble. That was when he really came onto the scene. So it felt like he's been out here hooping for a minute. I
felt like he was 30.
No, that's how many 30-point games he's dropped against.
That's probably what it is. No, but I mean, they could bring Gary Trent back to keep some shooting. Grady Dick, good prospect for them. Had a nice game today against Miami. But they need shooting around Scotty Barnes, around RJ Barrett. Emmanuel Quickley's a good shooter too, but they need more. You can never have enough shooting and versatility in the league right now. And they got to decide right now with Gary Trent what they're going to do. Bruce Brown, I think he fits if they want to do it, and he's a good vet to have around. And he might be, but I think he's going to be valuable for contenders right now. Like teams that you look at, like I look briefly at just teams that make sense that they'll try to see what they can do. Like Milwaukee would love him next to Dame to guard the point of attack. Sacramento, you look at teams like the Sixers, OKC might be interested in having another versatile defender there. Like, just a lot of teams could just call him and right away he's a top 7 player on a championship team, as he was last year. I think the Heat would love to have him as a 2-way impact guy. So I don't think Toronto's done. I like the way, it's not necessarily about the picks. They have ammo to move up in the draft if they find a guy they like. I don't really think they're going to be taking a lot of shots at young guys. I think they're going to be looking at more ready-to-go guys, or move them possibly for other young guys who are ready to go. So I really like the core of Quickly and Barnes together. They got to figure out if Barrett's that guy and who else is going to be a part of that journey.
Memphis Grizzlies, man. We spoke briefly on last episode. They've had some real unfortunate luck this season. Steven Adams is out. John Morant was suspended, came back. They were rolling, and then he got injured. Now Desmond Bane's out for 6 weeks. But what I thought about today is the 99 Spurs. And so if anybody doesn't really know the history on that team, the Spurs were already a very good team, but David Robinson got injured and he missed the season, and they ended up with the number 1 pick that just so happened to be Tim Duncan. Now, I don't think there's a Tim Duncan in this draft, me personally, but for the Grizzlies, they're going to come back full strength, and I'm not sure if they have a draft pick or not. I really should have looked that up. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to take accountability.
No, they do.
Yeah, so they're going to be able to have a really high draft pick, and that's another team that typically drafts pretty well. Now, I'm not going to get into OJ Mayo because that was I'm still bothered by that.
So good.
I thought he was going to be special.
I thought he was next.
But we're talking about a good organization that already has a good roster, and they're going to end up with a high pick. And so I kind of just want to know how y'all are looking at the Grizzlies, young guys this year and their potential for next year.
So, it like you said, super, super unfortunate, but let's try to find the positive in some of these things. A lot of injuries. You mentioned Ja, you mentioned Steven Adams, we mentioned Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, too, is missing time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the team is a shell of itself. Like, let's keep it honest. We just probably named 4 of their top 5 rotation players that are missing time or miss the whole season. That's not even to include guys like Brandon Clark. Like the team is a shell of itself. But if there is one thing that has came away from these Grizzlies recently is GG Jackson. Mm-hmm. And man, when I get to talk about fucking rookies, I get excited because GG Jackson, 45th pick in the draft. I believe that's why he wears 45. It would only make sense. I didn't fact check that either, but I'm gonna roll with it. No, but realistically, man, like he's a 6'8", 215, almost 7 foot wingspan player who was the youngest player in the draft. Keep in mind, fell in the draft, did not have anything to do with his skill. And Frankie can vouch for that. He was a super, extremely talented player, scorer, footwork, mid-post. The three-point shot looked nice. The percentages sometimes aren't there, but that's fine. He's 18. You can work on that. It was just some of the off-court concerns, some of the me over team concerns at 18. But, man, the talent was there. And these last 2 games, 23 and 20 points. In a win, first of all, against Golden State, he dropped to 23. And then against a tough New York Knicks team, he dropped to 20 points and was really keeping him afloat, showing his just his spacing, showing his acumen as a cutter, everything. Like you just putting on a display offensively while still getting some blocks and being engaged. But the key to me is they're getting to see him play in a system, and he's getting these valuable minutes. Next to, he's still playing alongside guys like Jaren. Once Bane comes back, once, he's playing alongside guys like Kennard, who's making the job a lot easier for him. But he's getting some run in a team, in a scheme where, in my personal opinion, his biggest draft question was how willing is he to play team basketball, to play next to somebody, because it just wasn't shown. And I believe he went to South Carolina. I don't want to get that wrong.
Yeah, South Carolina.
But, yeah, it was, it's just, it's silver lining. There's some plus there. Xavier Tillman's been pretty good for them too. Kennard coming back, just that level of a shooter coming back. And another guy that they found incredible minutes from has been Vince Williams Jr. And he needs to get talked about. He was a 2nd round pick last year, but he's coming into his own. It's funny because he's only a 35% 3-point shooter, but I don't give a fuck. I don't care about percentages. Watch the guy play defensively. He's taking on the toughest assignment every day. It's don't really look at the percentages and stuff because they're being tasked to do things that they normally wouldn't be doing once these guys are back in the lineup. It's how can they fill a role? And, as a scorer off the bench, that's kind of what GG Jackson does, somebody who can provide some relief buckets. And then Vince Williams as a 3-and-D guy playing alongside some of these guys that we mentioned, he's been fitting right in, and he's getting some more responsibility offensively. And it's not to say he's obviously a good offensive player right now. He might never be, but he doesn't have to be, especially when he plays alongside these guys. So there's some silver lining, Grizzlies fans. I know it's a tough year. You get a high pick. This is not the most talented draft that's coming up, but you can still find value out of that. And, looking ahead, but still staying calm now. So I just wanted to I wanted to give some shine to the Grizzlies and talk about a team that's great at drafting. Like, come on, like it doesn't like you give these teams who are great at drafting enough shots to pick high in the draft, and they're gonna make you pay, like point blank period. So just trying to find some silver lining for the Grizzlies fans because it's been a disastrous year for them so far.
Yeah, and Frankie, before you go, actually, I do want to kind of just get on the GG Jackson stuff. So if there's any team that I trust with somebody who had off the court stuff, aside from the Miami Heat, I will go with the Memphis Grizzlies, because even dating back to Zach Randolph, remember, he revived his career there. He had a bunch of off the court stuff, and now he's a absolute just legend in Memphis. Just off court, everything is just amazing for him, and so I trust them with that. And also, I've just never really knocked players in the draft for maturity issues when they're 18 or 19 years old. That's just kind of comes with the age. Yeah. So for me personally, I don't mind that. And so I think if he keeps playing the way he's been playing this year, he's going to definitely have a role next year. And that's pretty scary considering he is the youngest player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it when we did our draft segment where we were reviewing for the Heat, because GG Jackson was available at number 18 for the Heat. And we were thinking this might be the perfect lottery ticket. But, there was a lot of, we understood completely why they wouldn't take him, but the talent was mesmerizing. There was a lot of scouts that said if he took another year in school, he might be a top 5 pick in the next year's draft, because he's that talented. But he's had a little bit of understanding his role. He's got to learn how to play within the team and get his, but that's the issue with a lot of guys at his age. It's difficult. It's a big change from playing on most high school AAU teams where you're the most talented guy. You're going to get yours. Yeah. And now you got to learn to play within the flow, within offense, and be more selective at times. But now he's get to do it at a high level, at the highest level, and see how the teams defend him, how to react to it. He's got to work on his passing a little bit, but they want to see his how he reacts to a double team, how he reacts to certain coverages, how he's learning to react to certain defenses, if they play him, try to push him off his spots, how's he going to play off that? Which is stuff he would get no matter what, but he would get it in spurts. Because if he's playing with Ja and Desmond and Jaren Jackson all the time, he's gonna be a catch and shoot guy. He's gonna get get the ball 5 seconds left, do something. He's not gonna get those minutes. This time he gets him and Jake LaRavia, Xavier Tillman, Vince Williams. We talked about David Roddy. All these guys who were first round picks or valued or second round picks for them. They've been instituted to being a role player with the main guys active. Now they get to show a little bit what they can do. They can explore their game a little bit because they have the room forever. They're not going to make the playoffs like this. No matter what you go for, it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. But Jaren Jackson also gets to explore. We talked about all those guys. Jaren Jackson has to be that guy right now, and he was never going to be that guy with Ja. Probably not with Desmond Bane either. But now he gets to really explore the ball handling a little bit, explore your weaknesses, try shit out, and work on your weaknesses. This is what you want out of this year. It's also kind of fortunate. I would say it's too much about luck, but it's kind of fortunate that all this shit happened in 1 year. Compounded into 1 year, as opposed to oh shit, Steven Adams got hurt in 2016, and then the next year Ja got hurt, and then this guy got hurt the year after. Yeah. Sometimes that shit just happens in waves, and you never find out. Look at the Heat in the finals; they get hurt in the finals every fucking time. The last couple goes, but hopefully this isn't a recurring issue. We want it. I think every NBA fan hates injuries. I don't think that's
for sure
wild to say, but I'm just really curious about these young guys. I want to see the GG Jacksons and David Roddy see what they could be. With these opportunities.
Yeah, and it makes such a huge difference to be able to go out and have the room to mess up and know you're not coming out the game.
Right.
For somebody like a GG Jackson who's really young, and you have other guys who I wouldn't say they're in a position where they're kind of fighting for their careers, in Memphis. I feel like Memphis knows what they're doing with these players already in some sense, but just kind of fighting for a role in a sense and being able to look. You can't really do anything with a short leash, especially in the NBA.
Yeah,
those minutes you get are crucial because there's other teams watching also. And so if you mess up one or two times and you don't go back into the game, that's the impression you left. And that could end up getting real scary for you. But now you got everybody injured. And this is not celebrating injuries in any way. No. It's just guys have opportunities now. And so being able to take advantage of those opportunities freely and be able to just play basketball and not worry about if I mess up now, where am I going to be next season, or where are they going to send me down to the G League, or they whatever. That's going to make a huge difference for these players, and it looks like it already has because, like you mentioned, Vincent Williams has also been playing incredible alongside GG Jackson.
Yeah, no, and it is also to mention that we talked a little bit about the draft and stuff, but sometimes these you mentioned the Spurs in '99. Sometimes these injuries play a role in like being necessary for the next step in the future.
Yeah,
like we talked. We're Heat fans. We were all really young. I don't even know if Lou was alive when Zoe got with the kidneys and killed the championship aspirations in 2000, 2001. But that forced the Heat that were trying to hold on into a rebuild. They ended up getting Caron Butler in 2002. Got some guy named Dwayne Wade. Happy birthday, Dwayne. In 2003, and that turned their whole franchise around. What was one of the darkest moments, they forced them into a decision they didn't want to make, and things ended up working out for them. That's not to say it always happens like that, but sometimes it can. Like that's hope for Memphis. Like I love Memphis as an organization. A ton of respect to what they do, and like we talked about the grit and grind era teams, but like I've always had a soft spot for Memphis. Dating back to those times, Tony Allen, Rudy Gay, 2K legend.
I'm so mad they took his foul out of the game, but we don't got to get into that right now.
All NBA 2K first team is Rudy
Absolutely.
Gay.
The Boston Celtics. Now look. I created this show because I wanted to always give credit where it's due, right? And so with us being Miami Heat fans, we're still unbiased. We're still unbiased. Like me personally, I don't hate the Celtics. I'm not going to answer that for my co-hosts. Look, this is I thought about this maybe yesterday. The Heat and Celtics has to be like the only real rivalry in sports right now, right? And the rest of them are kind of like two teams holding on to something that used to be.
Yeah.
In the NBA, for sure.
At least in the NBA, for sure.
Yeah. In the other sports, definitely. It's definitely not the only rivalry. But the NBA, there's not. Like the Heat and Knicks try to be something. Lakers, Celtics. It's like there's no animosity there. The Warriors don't really have like. The Warriors and Grizzlies was becoming a little rivalry there.
Yeah.
But it's been a little bit. So.
Yeah. But like I was saying, we give credit where it's due. The Boston Celtics right now are 32-9. Not only first in the East, they're 4 games ahead of second in the East. Now, that's crazy. So when they first traded Marcus Smart, I was like, what are they gonna do now? He was their identity. And I was only like that for about an hour. And then I realized, oh no, they got Derek White on the team. Like they're just going with Derek White. He showed them something. And he showed the world something really last year that says, okay, they can really rely on him. And I'm not jumping on the all-star train that JJ Redick is on, but if he were to make it in, I wouldn't be surprised. Because on a team that good with somebody contributing that much, even though he did struggle recently, I don't pay too much attention to slumps. He's really helped that team keep their identity, which I didn't think was possible. And that's not even mentioning them bringing Drew Holiday in, who up until today I had no idea was leading the league in corner 3-point percentage.
They revamped their team. It almost felt like they were just like their teams, like the Celtics have been very good for a while. Basically, since Jayson Tatum's been in the league, they've been a good basketball team. It's felt like they've been missing something to get them over the hump, and it finally felt like they were like let's do something about it. Like, what's out there? Give props to their front office for just about every acquisition that they've made, because it's been the right one. Trading for Derek White, trading Josh Richardson at the time for Derek White, it hit. Trading for Kristaps, that's hit. Trading away Malcolm Brogdon and so, and now getting Drew Holiday, that's hit. Like, they've made this team who they have a 10 net rating, which, by the way, has been the highest net rating in the NBA since the Warriors in 2016, 2017, where they won the championship. So it's been, and it's the 11th highest of all time. Most of these teams won championships. We have 3 Warriors teams, 3 Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan teams. Like, the teams that didn't win championships lost to one of the teams that won the championship that year. So it's like this is the company that they're with. And this team, it's been built in such a way where it's very interesting to me. It's very different because they're not one of, like, they don't even drive the basketball as much as other teams do.
Right.
But their offense is still incredibly efficient. Like, it's just so curious to see all these pieces and they're meshing together. But it's felt like they took a less is more approach. Like, they condensed their rotation players and just got higher quality players at those, to take some of those minutes. And it's worked for them, man. From Tatum all the way down to the 7th guy on the bench. Like, it's been very good for them this year. And they're the favorites to win the championship, point blank, period. If we're really going to keep it honest here, it hurts my soul to say that, but it is what it is. And you have to, when you see talent, you got to respect it. The defensive things that they're doing with it's been going popular everywhere. Drew Holiday playing the middle of the zone and then them switching to man when the ball gets past the free throw line. Like, you can't, credit to first of all,
Joe Mazzulla,
it's very fun, to make fun of Joe Mazzulla. He is not a bad basketball coach. I promise y'all that. Like, he is a good coach. He's very, very young, first of all. So, mistakes are to be made. But his ability to change that team's offense from what it used to be with Ime Udoka and what happened there, and them to quickly pivot to Joe Mazzulla and be more of a 3-point shooting team and still maintaining their offensive efficiency, if not fucking improving it, while now maintaining their defensive efficiency, like shit like that. Like, a lot of credit to Joe Mazzulla, a lot of credit to the players on that team for changing the way that they've played. The Celtics are a fucking problem.
And yeah, Joe, credit to Joe Mazzulla. I think he picked up that technique in watching The Town for the millionth time. No, I'm just kidding. No, he was he did that in college when he played for West Virginia. I believe he was the middleman when they beat Kentucky in the Elite Eight. I think it was. I think it was, if I'm not incorrect, I think it was the Boogie Cousins team. I think that's when he was playing. I'm not exactly sure, but it feels right around that time. But yeah, man, they're incredibly talented. They have a starting lineup where everyone's a 3-point threat. They're all shooting 5 or more 3-point attempts per game. Al Horford, the corpse of Al Horford is still a zombie out there. He's fucking playing well, defending his ass off. Versatile, can play with Kristaps, can play the 5. They're starting Tatum and Brown at the forward spot, so they get size and versatility out there. Both of those guys are having really good, efficient years. Brown's continued improving. You mentioned Derek White and Drew Holiday, just the defensive backcourt that is. My tenacity. And Drew has wanted to play the 2-guard spot for a while. When he was in New Orleans, he was demanding to play the 2-guard. He says he's more comfortable off the ball. Makes it easy for Derek White. And you mentioned the Marcus Smart trade. I felt the exact same way. I'm like, Marcus Smart, like, for all his headaches and stuff, he was the heart and soul of that team. But it opened up when they opened up the opportunity to just sneak in and get Drew Holiday. And I was so upset. I was more upset than missing out on Dave that he let Drew go to Boston. Because Drew's such a great fit with those guys. Just gonna compete, gonna defend, gonna do all the little things. I am still worried. One of the things that has really like caught them every year in the playoffs, they don't have any depth. Right. They don't have any reliable depth, and they're still so top heavy. If one or two of those guys gets hurt or underperforms, it's a lot more pressure on the other top guys because it's harder to rely on the rotation guys if they're not getting the minutes. Now, Sam Hauser's had a good year, Peyton Pritchard's had a good year, but we've seen both of those guys get played off the floor in the playoffs, and to the point where Mazzulla and what's this guy's name? I'm blanking on this guy, the Rockets coach.
Udoka.
And Udoka, both of them have made them unplayable. Like they would rather go with a 6 or 7 man rotation than play those guys and trust them. But so they both have stuff to prove. I don't really and that's also a bad thing. Like Lou, you mentioned how great they've done in the front office. I don't know if there's any versatility for this roster to make another move. I'm sure they're searching for it. I'm sure they'll find something. But I think this is the year they got to trust Sam Hauser. They got to trust Peyton Pritchard if they want to be a serious team, because that you can't. It's really, really hard to go with a full 6-man rotation. Like even Denver had to trust Jeff Green in the finals, and he played well. But yeah, that's what sometimes these guys will do. Like they'll figure it out and they'll step up because they have the opportunity. But it's on Mazzulla to give them the opportunity too.
Mm-hmm. And so I do want to. I don't want to move on without giving their front office credit for this. It was a couple years ago. So Al Horford had his stint in Philadelphia where he didn't play well, and I figured that was more of a fit thing anyway. But then he was in OKC where he just didn't match the timeline, and he was on the market, and I was like, people are really sleeping on Al Horford because he was having a great year in OKC. He just didn't make sense on that team.
He was hooping in
OKC.
He was hooping so much that they were like, "You're helping us win too many games.
You're too good for this team.
Yeah, we need you to relax, buddy."
And then he ends up back in Boston. At the time, like I said, I don't hate the Celtics anymore. At the time, I felt differently because that's been a rivalry. Like at this point, we could say since 2008, the Heat and Celtics have been rivals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 2010. And it's 2024 now.
Yeah, it was 09. 09 was the
09 when they eliminated D-Wade the first time.
Yeah, D-Wade the first time.
Yeah, the Q-Rich KG thing.
Yeah. Q-Rich called them actors and all that stuff. Like, it was the whole thing. But they've been rivals since 2009, and it's 2024, and these teams still absolutely despise each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing it as a sports fan. I'm also sick of it because, it's like the Celtics are so fucking good. And with rivalries, usually a team goes away at some point. Somebody ends up being bad, and it just hasn't happened on either side. It's just been two Rams just hitting each other over and over again. And we know already at this point they're going to find each other in the playoffs again, and it's going to be another stressful bloodbath on both sides. And I wish we could postpone it in some sense because I've been chilling this season. I've been happy. And I know it's going to be tough because also the Celtics both teams got better. As much as people talked about Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, but as Heat fans, we saw how they played last year. No disrespect to them, but both teams got better. I'll put it that way.
Roller coasters.
Yeah. So that's going to be stressful, man. And I'm not looking forward to it.
No, yeah. And the East in general has improved. We talked about the Pacers. We talked about the Knicks. Philly's gotten better. The Bucks got Dame. I didn't say better because they haven't looked better, but they've got Dame. So it is what it is. But it's interesting to see how this Celtics team matches up with all those teams because, they have versatility within the players, but they don't have they have versatility within their starters. But like Frankie said, their rotation isn't really deep. So if one of these guys gets hurt, what happens if somebody becomes banged up specifically at that 5 spot? If it's Porzingis or if it's Horford, like how much are you trusting Luke Cornet out there for 15, 20 minutes in a playoff game? Mm-hmm. And how much are you trusting Peyton Pritchard out there for 15, 20 minutes in a playoff game? It's interesting to see who steps up for them because talent-wise, man, they're good enough to win the whole thing. And They talk about Bruce Brown. They should be trying to see what that costs.
Don't give them that idea. Do not give them that idea.
No, realistically, I don't know who. I'm looking at.
They can get to the salary.
Yeah. I just don't know who they're going to be able to move on and improve their depth. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how many picks they have. But whatever they do have, they should try to package everything and try to get at least one more rotation guy, because I do think they're one rotation guy away from not just winning this year, but being a contender. As long as they have, to be honest, guys, like as long as they got Tatum, Brown, Derek White, Porzingis, that they got these guys locked up for years to come, like they're going to be a contender. So just get you somebody that kind of fits their timeline at a cheap price, and they'll be a problem to mess with for not just the East, but if they make it to the finals, whoever comes out of the West as well.
Yeah, they have all their almost all their picks. They have their immediate picks, so they can make some moves. But the highest salary out of their non-top 6 guys is Peyton Pritchard at $4 million. So I don't know if they can get there to any of these guys that'll really make a difference, like a Bruce Brown, thank God. Trade exceptions, I don't know. Oh, that might be a good idea to check that. No, they have a $6 million trade exception. That they could use that and probably get a decent player with some picks.
I wouldn't put it past them, even on the buyout market. So.
And Brad Stevens, I think, did say they're going to be aggressive and try to find something anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know their cap situation, but I know there's a lot of restrictions now with the buyout market. Like if you're over like the tax at a certain point, you can't get guys that on the buyout market that made a certain amount of money. Mm-hmm. It's weird rules. They made it really difficult to understand. But oddly enough, I think Al Horford might be their most important player outside of like Jayson Tatum, because he's the main guy on Joel Embiid. He's the main guy to guard Giannis. He's the main guy to guard Bam. And he got a step slow last year. He started seeing some of his age. His lateral quickness was a little bit slower, which is understandable. He's 40. Mm-hmm. But if he misses any time in the playoffs or loses another step, gets a little banged up. Like, I don't know who. Are you trusting Tatum, or are you trusting Porzingis to guard those big guys? I don't know how Embiid and Giannis have done specifically against Porzingis, but I know Bam's eating his lunch.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Porzingis has had no answer for Bam.
Giannis as well. So it's gonna be like you stated. Like, it's interesting because if anybody goes down, like they're gonna have some trouble. But if they stay healthy, man, like
that's a tough team.
They've been healthy all year, plus 10 net rating. Like, it historically good so far this year, better than they were last year at this point. Yeah. And they were pretty fucking good last year as well. So it's they've got an identity. Derek White just seems to be everywhere where he needs to be. Like, he's literally. We talk about perfect role players.
Over a block a game at his size.
Yeah, I don't want to call him a role player because
he's better than
a fucking role player.
He's a starter. He's a damn good starter.
Yeah, he's also one of. I want to give him credit because he's one of the best. Just like Kenny said, a blocking him. He's one of the best rim protecting guards in all of basketball. Yeah. Not just in terms of blocks, but in terms of field goal percentage at the rim. Yeah. Him and Drew Holiday are so good at guarding the rim at their undersized size that it makes them so versatile defensively. Obviously, Tatum, when he's locked in, is a very good defender. Jaylen Brown is a very athletic guy. Porzingis is very rangy, very lengthy.
Big as hell.
Yeah, big as hell. So they can cause issues in all sorts of ways. And then, Derek White does deserve all the love he's getting from JJ Redick because he's been good for some time. And he was one of my draft crushes back then. I got a very good friend who is a Spurs fan. And as soon as they drafted him, I was like, man, you guys are gonna love him there. Like, Pop is gonna love him. Some injuries and he had to get traded, but the Celtics are reaping the benefits of his price at that time.
And so if I were a Celtics fan, the thing that would scare me is a mixture of what y'all said with the depth, and they still have this thing where they fall in love with the jumper a little too much. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, they can all shoot, like y'all stated. So that wouldn't scare me too much, but that has been kind of their Achilles heel. they've kind of shot themselves in the foot with that in playoff series, and with the fact that in the playoffs you got this small rotation playing heavy minutes. There's going to be games where you just don't have the legs, and so that will concern me if I were a Celtics fan personally. But as a Miami Heat fan, when they are hitting those jumpers, it's like a fucking stab in the chest.
Yeah.
So,
interestingly enough, I'm looking. They are the fourth least. Like they drive the fourth least to the rim in the NBA, only behind the Warriors, the Nuggets. I mean, they don't need a drive. They got Jokic and the Lakers. So like, it's super
pressure. So
it's just super interesting how like, you know, like we try to box teams in. Like you need to be able to drive and kick to play to win basketball games. Like you need to be able to do this. Like there's so many different ways because at the very top of the list, you got Oklahoma City with the most drives per game. So there's like
depends on personnel and scheme.
Yeah, there's different ways to peel the nap or something like that. There's like I'm not good with sayings, guys, but you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to episode 12 of Playoff Foul. I'm Kenny Spence. I'm with Lou. I'm with Frankie. Give them your social media real quick.
Frankie G _FRANKY G_ on Twitter. I'm not going to call it that other name. You follow us on Miami Heat Beat. We talk about the Heat specifically. And I also do a Stream Beat Pod on Twitter. Follow us for movie talk and TV shows.
At SaucyTakes, SAUCY, no spaces, TAKEZ at the end on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you need, you can find me at. Been a pleasure.
KennySpenceNBA. I'm only on Twitter, but you can follow me there. Playoff Foul on all platforms. And we'll see y'all next week.